You ever hear about a place that sounds so strange it feels like it's gotta be from a myth? A spot on the map where the normal rules of nature just don't seem to apply? Well, we're about to dive into one of the most bizarre and fascinating places on the entire planet.
And no, that is not the opening line of some fantasy novel. That's a real description of a real place. And that one single, chilling idea is at the heart of the mystery we're going to unravel today. So, where are we talking about? We're heading to northern Tanzania, to a place called Lake Natron. Its eerie reputation really exploded thanks to a wildlife photographer named Nick Brandt, who found these haunting, perfectly preserved animal bodies washed up on the shore. People actually call it Africa's Medusa Lake, like the monster from Greek mythology who could turn you to stone with just one look. And when you see the pictures of these calcified birds and bats, they look like little statues completely frozen in time. You totally get why. So, what in the world is going on here? Why are so many animals meeting this bizarre fate? Well, the leading theory is that the lake's surface is just so unbelievably reflective, it acts like a perfect mirror. Birds flying overhead don't see water. They think it's just more open sky, and they fly straight into it. Okay, but crashing into water doesn't turn you to stone, right? To get that answer, we've got to look beneath the surface. The real secret is in the lake's one-of-a-kind and incredibly powerful chemical makeup. This is where things get really interesting. The lake is named after a special compound called natron. And here's the crazy part. This is the exact same stuff the ancient Egyptians used in their mummification process. They used it to dry out and preserve bodies. So, in a very real way, Lake Natron is basically a giant natural mummification machine. So how does this place become this chemical soup? Well, it's kind of like a perfect geological storm. First, it's a closed basin, so water flows in, but it can't flow out. It only escapes through evaporation, which leaves all the minerals behind. Then you've got a nearby volcano that spews out this really rare lava that's just packed with these minerals. It all washes into the lake and creates this deadly recipe. And all of that chemistry leads to water with an absolutely wild level of alkalinity. We're talking a pH that can reach 10.5. Just for reference, pure, neutral water is a 7. This is way, way off the charts. Now, to give you an idea of what that means, a pH of 10.5 is almost the same as household ammonia. Yeah, the stuff you clean with. Can you imagine swimming in a natural lake that's basically as caustic as a bottle of cleaner? It's so strong it could strip the ink right off of paper. No wonder it preserves those animals so perfectly. But, and this is where the story gets really mind-bending, for all its deadly power, this place isn't a total wasteland. In fact, it's a thriving sanctuary. It's one of those amazing paradoxes in nature where life, somehow, always finds a way. For pretty much any other creature that stumbles into it, Lake Natron is an absolute death trap. A beautiful, shimmering, but lethal end. Game over. But for millions of lesser flamingos, it's the safest nursery on the entire planet. That toxic water that kills everything else acts like a perfect moat, keeping predators away. It's actually one of the most important flamingo breeding grounds in the world. So how on earth do they pull this off? Well, they're basically custom built for this place. It's incredible. They have this really tough skin and scaly legs that act like armor against the burns. If they do drink the water, they have special glands that can filter out the salt. And to top it all off, their stomachs are so tough, they can eat the toxic algae that grows in the lake. It's their main food source. They're perfectly adapted. Okay, so this brings us to the question that I know you're thinking. What would happen to a person? If these flamingos can handle it, what about us? It's time to separate the whole Medusa legend from the very, very real dangers. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. If you jumped into Lake Natron, would you immediately calcify and turn into a stone statue? The answer is no, you wouldn't. But don't go packing your swimsuit just yet. Because honestly, the reality of what would happen is just as dangerous, if not worse. Okay, so the dangers are immediate and they are severe. First off, the water temperature can get up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot enough to give you third-degree burns in just a few seconds. Second, the lake bed is covered in these razor-sharp salt crystals. And, of course, that hyperalkaline water would cause agonizing pain if it got in your eyes or any little cut you might have. Now, you wouldn't turn to stone while you're alive, but if you were to drown and your body was left in the lake, that's when the mummification would start. The high alkalinity would stop decomposition in its tracks, preserving you in that same hardened, calcified state as those poor birds. And look, this isn't all just theory and what-ifs. The very real dangers of this lake were put to the ultimate test in a pretty dramatic survival story that shows you just how perilous this place is. Get this, back in 2007, a helicopter with a film crew on board actually crashed right into the lake. The pilot and one of the passengers had broken bones, and they were submerged in that toxic, burning water. But another passenger managed to get to shore and get help from the local Maasai people who heroically rushed in, built stretchers, and carried the injured to safety. It's an unbelievable story of survival. And that story just brings it all home, doesn't it? The lesson of Lake Natron is that the harshest places on Earth, the ones that seem like a death sentence, can actually be a perfect sanctuary for the few that are built to handle it. Nature is just full of these incredible contradictions. So that really makes you wonder, right? What other impossible places on Earth are out there, just hiding these incredible secret worlds, full of life that found a way to thrive, completely against all odds?